telling you now, Maguire's going to get him the sack. Gareth Southgate.
Oh, no, I think he's going anyway after the World Cup.
Honestly, I get it. Like, that's his guy. But
do you know what's mad?
Sorry, what kind of message is this sending out?
Oh, you're going for Maguire today, aren't you?
Not really, but like the manager's going all out to defend him. Like, it was blatantly obvious for everyone to see last night the mistakes that he made. Yeah. And as I said, I felt sorry for him last night.
All I'll say is and this is not a comparison, it's just an example, is when we went into the Euros in '96 with Terry Venables, he picked Shearer, who hadn't scored for such a long time, and there were question marks over whether or not that was the right decision to put him, not just in the squad, but in the starting 11, and look what happened to Shearer.
No, but I get that. But he's a goal scorer, scoring goals.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, a manager's got their favourites, and it turned out...
As a centre-forward, you can get away with that.
Yeah, okay.
Because you score a goal. Like, confidence is flowing.
All right. We could go into a World Cup in a scenario where our left-back and centre-half haven't played any game time for their club, in Luke Shaw and...
I thought Luke Shaw was all right.
He was great. He was great. Let's speak to Fraser. He's a Birmingham fan, wants his say on all things England. Fraser, how are you?
Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
What would you like to say?
Well, I've called up because I think I'm going to be one of the only ones to defend Harry Maguire. Bent, you just said that Maguire's going to get Southgate the sack, and then in the same sentence you said you feel sorry for him. What side of the fence are you on?
Well, I do feel sorry for him because his manager's putting him in a situation where he's making him look worse and worse.
I'm sorry, I just don't agree. I completely understand that people have their opinions. I get that, and I'm all for that, but I'm not all for people having the right to abuse. There's a difference between the media, you guys, the newspapers, the people on Twitter, the people on Instagram that abuse Harry Maguire.
Yeah, but hold on. We're not abusing him though. We're not attacking his personality. We're talking about critiquing his game. Last night he made 2 mistakes, which cost England 2 goals. That's not us abusing him. That's just stating the obvious. I
completely agree, but for me, when an opinion goes into abuse is when it's constant. It's almost essentially like bullying, and I'm going to probably get whatever for this. But if you constantly have a go at someone or state your opinion on someone over and over and over again, that is bullying.
Okay.
That is abuse.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree to that. But the whatever you would call it, abuse, the ideas that Bent is coming up with based on his performance, the critic, whatever you want to call it, isn't constant with no games happening. It's after the next game. It's after the next game.
I completely agree, but I feel like if Harry Maguire didn't play for Man United, he wouldn't get nowhere near this level of abuse. If he played for Arsenal, if he played for Liverpool, he would not get this abuse.
But the abuse he's getting is from mistakes in matches, right? Which is costing England. So I think it's irrelevant who it is, in this case Harry Maguire, and which club he plays for, in this case Man United. If there's a player on the international circuit, the international scene,
who got hammered at United.
There you go, Pogba, another one, is making mistakes that is costing his team goals, they're going to get hammered. I don't agree with it, but I don't think it's because he's Harry Maguire, and I don't think he's a Man United player. It's just because it's a player on the biggest stage and he's making mistakes.
Okay, again, I completely agree with everything you're saying. From my point of view, listening to you guys pretty much every weekday, there is a fine line between bullying and having your opinion. And just because this guy is on hundreds of thousands of pounds a week does not mean his mental health is completely invincible. This man has a family, he has parents. How do you think they feel?
But Fraser, what are we supposed to do then? Say nothing?
No, you guys might grasp my point. You can say what you want. It's when it's every single time that England play, every single time Man United come up in a sentence, Harry Maguire is the first name that comes out of people's mouths. And it's frustrating and it's getting boring. Imagine you, Benny, right? You played in an era where pretty much there was just print newspaper and there was something on the radio. There was pretty much no Twitter going as big as it was back then. Imagine if you had a few poor games. Imagine the abuse you would have got at Twitter, especially playing at Villa and being a Birmingham fan. Could you imagine all the abuse you would have got from the Blues fans?
Yeah, but if I was every time I stepped on the pitch though, Fraser, and was missing chances, then unfortunately, listen, and you're right, it's poor, but it comes with the territory. But you look at, again, Maguire this season, like people spoke about him at the start of the season because he had a poor season last season. He started this season off against Brentford and Brighton. They got battered in both of them games. He was then dropped, which was the story, because obviously he's an England centre-half. He then comes back into the team against Sociedad, doesn't play well, they get beat again, so then he's the story again. And then he comes back into this international fold. We play Italy and Germany, and he makes a mistake.
Fraser, let me ask you a question just quickly, right? I hear what you're saying, right? And to an extent, I understand it. But I think there's a difference between criticism and abuse. So if, in this instance, Harry Maguire keeps being picked for England when he's not being picked for Man United and makes mistakes, I'm not saying this is going to happen forever, but in this scenario, and they lead to goals, I think everyone is justified to criticise that player, right? When it turns into abuse is when they talk about other factors connected to him that has nothing to do
with football.
With his football.
Exactly.
That's when it becomes abuse. I think if a player is not performing to the best of his ability in the eyes of a fan, they have every right to criticise them as long as it's not abusive.
I agree, but on your programme, you guys do offer an opinion. I'm not just talking about talkSPORT.
Sure, I get that. I get that.
Media. I'm talking about everything. He gets name called, and I'm not just thinking of, I sound like a teacher here looking after one of his kids.
No, you're right.
He gets name called. He gets ridiculed all over social media, as does every player. It's not just Maguire. I get
You're
that.
right.
And that's the world we live in, right? The abuse on social media is not going to end. And with the print journalism, the newspapers, the radio, social media, it's just getting all too much. And these people are human, and they deserve to have a little bit more respect.
Fraser, thank you for your call. I didn't want to shut you down there till you finished.
Sure, but again, listen, he makes some really good points, Fraser.
Yeah.
But it's two separate arguments, because what you said there is right, because social media abuse is one thing. That's good, and I don't.
And
have
that's disgusting.
That's disgusting, but that happens not just footballers. We get it probably on social media. It's
What?
we get it. Do you know what I mean? On social media, that's just one of them things. But I think you can't call it abuse if you're critiquing something that's blatantly obvious. Like obviously last night again, unfortunately, he made the mistake for the penalty.
Criticism,
exactly.
Yeah. But he is right on social media, on things like Twitter, which is an absolute.
You hate that.
Yeah, it's gutter. But yeah, he's right. But that's just the horrific world we live in. You can't control that, sadly. Hopefully you can to some extent, but it doesn't seem to be the case, does it?
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.